Welcome in to House of Horns. My name is Victor Corona, aka Victor Producer, and joining me as always is Gilbert Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. And Gilbert, the Rams not only won, but everybody else in the NFC West lost. So it was a win-win for the Rams as they continue to bolster their playoff hopes with a win over the Jets, 19-9. And now things are looking up for this Rams team that at one point was 1-4. They come off the bye and have now gone 8-2 since then. Just give me your thoughts on what you thought of this win over the Jets.
Yeah. Well, first of all, hopefully this was worth the wait because we know that the Seahawks lost. We know that the 49ers lost. So
Yeah.
a good day to wait for me here to finish my stories because the Rams won in the morning is maybe that's kind of one of the best way. The best thing is to do is win on Thursday and then have the weekend off. That's what the Rams did last week. But the
Hmm.
second best to win in 10 a.m. in the morning and then kick back and watch the
Yeah.
other teams lose in your division. So worth the wait here for the LA Rams. And it's getting to the point where like hey, week 18 against the Seahawks might not matter because
Yeah.
Seattle can maybe lose next week. Who do they play? I forgot. Somebody tough. Uh, and then if but it doesn't matter if the Rams beat the Cardinals, they're in a good spot here. So I gotta remember that Seahawks schedule. But oh, they play the Bears. Never mind. They
Yeah.
play the
On
Bears.
Thursday night.
Yeah. So So all pretty much the Rams got to do is win that game because they have a 1 game lead. They already beat the Seattle Seahawks, earlier. So yeah. So I wouldn't know how. Well, I guess what would the tiebreaker be if they end up with the same record? I don't know about that just
Yeah,
yet.
well, the thing is that they just need one more win. It sounds like, and they're in. So if they beat the Cardinals on Saturday, then they're pretty much
There you go.
in. It won't matter. So, but
So
but I think the thing that you do have to keep in mind is you want to make sure that it depends on matchups whether you want to get the third or the fourth seed, depending on what the Buccaneers or the Falcons do, because believe it or not, the Falcons are still in it because they won
yeah.
today against the Giants.
Yeah, I guess I mean to me that I don't think that really matters. 3 or 4, it's either Vikings or Packers or Lions. We don't know. But to kind of go into this game before we talk big picture, like I just want to say like we got to give this defense a lot more credit. We keep talking about
Yeah,
these Rams are dangerous. They're dangerous because they have Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and Puka Nakua. Anytime like in the last month or so, like since the halfway point of the season, anytime they go on the road, the defense is the better side from the offense. Like offense was
yeah,
pretty sluggish today, not the best. And credit to the defense to forcing Rodgers and Devontae Adams to be off sync. They weren't on the same page in the second half. They put a lot of pressure on them. So a young defense to be growing like that throughout the whole season, I think that's what truly makes the Rams dangerous because they're a complete team that could do it defensively. But obviously, they got to score more points to get better. But I'm not going to harp on that too much. I just want to credit the defense for doing what they did in New York, New England, New Orleans. I could keep going. San Francisco. I could keep going on and on about this team.
yeah. And I wanted to get to this comment here
Mm,
from AMS. Bates is a stud, and to his he kind of was the key to the comeback here because the Jets were driving, and this is one of those weird games, Gilbert, where the Jets didn't punt at all, but it was because they went for it on fourth down. The Rams had three stops on fourth down versus the Jets. One of them was this was huge. The Spates one on a run there. He forces the stop there on fourth down, and then you had PBUs by both Williams and Witherspoon. So to what you said, it was the defense who should be highlighted here, and AMS is also saying Rams need to play Whittington more, and I'll get to that. I want to start off with the positives before I get to the negatives here um with this team. And yes, they've like I said, they've gone 8-2 since the bye now, and they're in position to make the playoffs. But I think going forward, Gilbert, as you mentioned, um, that offense is going to be something that we need to discuss because you need to make this offense more than Puka Nakua and Kyren Williams because it's become really stagnant. It's now 12 games where they haven't scored a touchdown in the first quarter. Kyren Williams accounted for 53% of the Rams' total yardage in this game versus the Jets. So that's not something you want to, have from your offense. But I'll get to. I want to, like I said, I wanted to start with the positives here and the defense and what Chris Shula has done has been outstanding. His bend don't break defense. Um, they I thought they started a little bit slow. The Jets scored on their first possession. They scored a touchdown there. And then after that, they just pretty much shut them down. Every time they try to go for it on fourth down, they stop them. And then the pressure, I mean, uh, Jared Verse has kind of slowed down, and it seems like Braden Fisk hasn't, and he just continues to be a disruptor up the middle there, and he was huge in this game. I know they didn't get to sack him too many times, but I'm with you. Like that, this was all on the defense, and credit goes to them for this win.
Yeah, like I was trying to find like, okay, was there a lot of sacks here? Was it, was the yardage down? Like it really wasn't. And credit to the Jets, they were trying to kill a lot of clock too to keep that offense from getting into
Yeah,
a rhythm. But I saw that stop on the third on the Jets, sorry, on the Rams 3 yard line. They settled for a field goal, so they were killing a lot of clock, but they weren't making the most of it. Like you mentioned, some fourth down conversions that didn't hit, and like I mentioned at the top of the show, like that Devontae Adams Aaron Rodgers connection was not there. It wasn't there like it was in Jacksonville or Miami. And then even Garrett Wilson was saying like, "What the heck was that? Why was I not involved in this game plan here?" So it might have been like Rodgers and Adams saying, "YOLO, like we don't care, we won't be here next year."
yeah.
Forget you, Garrett Wilson. You're the young guy who's going to be here. Let's do our thing here. And that kind of burned them at the end because there wasn't a lot of connections or being in sync. There was that bad pass to Tyler Conklin at the end. So, hey, credit to the defense. They put pressure on them and they stepped up.
Yeah, and we talked about AMS. Nobody Odell Beckham is long gone. Like
Not the same guy.
you don't want to see that, honestly. Like you have the guys that you have right now. You need you need better execution from the offense. And the reason I kind of wanted to get into it, I wanted to talk about the defense first was because also like kind of switching on a positive side to the offense, Gilbert here. Tyler Higbee, he scored his first touch. He scored in his first game back since he tore his ACL and MCL in the playoff game versus the Lions. It was his first touchdown in 392 days, back to November 20 of 2023 versus the Cardinals. So it was an awesome thing. And then you mentioned someone there, and that was Garrett Wilson. And I forgot about this. This was the Mike LaFleur revenge game because he was fired by the Jets as the OC back in 2022. And then check what Gary Wilson had to say after the game about LaFleur. He said, "I love him, man. Obviously, my rookie year, looking back on it, it was a special time, and I
Mm.
might have taken it for granted, but I love him, man." So yeah, he's kind of regretting not having Mike LaFleur there, and it tells you that when you're a young guy and you have a really good rookie year, and then you see them bring in other guys, that doesn't that kind of takes it for granted for you, and that's what happened with Wilson, especially what you said about what him not being involved as much in this offense.
Well, that's the downside of going all in with Aaron Rodgers. Everything shifted. There was a lot of changes. There wasn't like growth. There wasn't building momentum on the rookie year, Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. That's when you really had like life there in New York. And then they went all in for Aaron Rodgers, and they made Michael LaFleur like the scapegoat. Like he was the reason why Zach Wilson wasn't doing well. And then Michael LaFleur goes to the Rams last year, and what happened to Puka Nakua's rookie year? He went off. Same thing with Gary Wilson. He went off in his rookie year, so I don't think he was a problem. It's just kind of like, yeah, let's try something new here, and fire everybody because we want to get Nathaniel Hackett in here for Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, that's the problem for the Rams. Sorry for the Jets here, but for the Rams, things are looking really nice, man. Again, yeah, we do need to address the offense eventually for the Rams here because they have a lot of weapons and talent. I am concerned about it, but I also feel good about them being kind of a complete team. They
Yeah.
don't feel complete like, say, the Vikings who I just watched beat down the Seahawks. Not beat down the Seahawks, but it was a close game. But they had a good defense with good offense, and the Rams feel like that too. It's just we don't see it enough from the offense.
Yeah, and I thought the other thing I saw, and I'll get to this comment here because I think it goes with what I wanted to talk about. Mike Armenta said, "I was a little worried there for a little bit. The Jets are a solid team despite their record." And when you look at this, when you look at these two teams, talent for talent, you can say the Jets have better talent, but the problem is that they don't have a good culture, which is something that I saw from Jet fans today. I thought that was something that I had not seen from an opposing team in terms of, like, look at that team with the Rams. You could tell that they love playing for their coaches, and on the other sideline it's like the opposite. And to your point, I think that's one of the things with the Rams is, you look at this team and they're just finding ways to win, and that's what you want to do. Another thing too, Gilbert, is, we talked about Sean McVay and we've criticized him, but he's about to become the first coach to have it to be have his team be 3 games under 500 and then lead them to the playoffs for 2 consecutive years. So that's a lot of just developing your guys, and you might not have the best talent like we've seen with the Eagles, or the rest, as you talked about with the Vikings or the Packers, but they're getting the most out of their talent. You have a bunch of guys, undrafted rookies, spades. You have other guys stepping up in on defense as well.
Yeah, and I guess now that I'm thinking about playoff seedings, and it's wild to think that we're there. Like we could think about that because
Yeah,
they're in a good spot here, and the Commanders victory to beat the Eagles, where they have 10 wins. That essentially they had the same wins, I think, as the Packers, and the Packers have to play the Vikings next week. So maybe there's some more shuffling there. Maybe you get the Commanders, and then they're a decent team, but they're not at the NFC North. But yeah, it's just kind of wild to think that they won eight of their last 10 games here to potentially, see wrapping up the division next week with the win against Arizona. And credit to Delbert to kind of poking fun at me. Az
yeah. Here we go.
eliminated.
Yeah,
uh Big Hig goes airborne for the TD. Yeah, that was great to see Tyler Higbee get that touchdown. But yeah, Arizona didn't do anything. Seattle had a valiant effort today, but they don't really feel like they're a real threat here. And then the 49ers, man, they just kind of fell apart from a lengthy playoff run the last 3 years and not making the most of it for the Super Bowl window there. So yeah, it's long seasons that changes for each team. But like you mentioned, Victor, one thing is consistent for the Rams. They have Sean McVay, and they usually have good results from it. They also have Les Snead, the GM. They have good coaching, good development, good program. Those are the type of things that you have in Baltimore. You used to have in New England. You have in Kansas City. That's how you keep winning and winning with different kind of players and core groups and rosters, and that's a credit to them.
yeah, and that's why, as much as yes, we need to talk about the offense and their struggles, right? Like we understand that those things need to be fixed, but at the same time, you look at the whole picture with this team, like they're gonna win. It's as you said, they're gonna end up winning the NFC West, which is something we nobody expected. Everybody expected the Rams to make the playoffs, coming off what they did last season, but no one expected them to win this division. Outside of Ram fans, and so for him to have them in this situation, it just tells you how good the culture is, and as you just pointed out with everybody else. And I think a big thing too is he keeps losing his coordinators, and then you see someone like Chris Shula, who we didn't knew nothing about, right? We didn't know. We were like, well, what are we gonna get from him? And he's done a great job, especially when you're talking about developing young guys. And we talked about, like, hey, like, we were all critical of them trading away Ernest Jones, and now they're in position to make the playoffs if they beat the Cardinals next week on Saturday night.
Yeah, and even knowing that this is not the best roster, I guess talent wise on paper for the defense, but to develop a guy who was undrafted like Omar Spades, it says a lot. To make it work with the secondary says a lot. They had some misses there and in free agency in the secondary that didn't really help out. The defensive front has been good, and he has a say in that too. There's a reason why Kobe Turner did so well. Jared Verse, Byron Young, yeah, they have positional coaches to help them out, but Chris Shula is kind of the ones overseeing everything. So to have a young defense with some weakness on the backside, and then to put the performance that they do on a weekly basis now, I'm gonna say they're consistent now. They're very consistent.
Yeah.
Uh, Obviously the Buffalo game at home was tough, but that was Josh Allen, so I'll give him a pass there. And but for the most part, they've been pretty good the second half here. And one thing about me, kind of calling them out for their road kind of sluggish ways. They've covered in most of these games. They covered in San Francisco. They covered in New York. They covered in New England. They covered in New Orleans. So, yeah, from a betting standpoint, they're making money for people too, even though they win
Mm,
in ugly fashion on the road. They were, I think they're -3.5 favorites today. So, yeah, I could keep harping on weaknesses because it's a very tough NFC West playoff picture. Hey, but they're finding ways to get it done. They're winning in good fashion, and I get the whole dangerous aspect to it. I don't think they feel like they're there yet to compete with the Eagles and the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions, but they're always going to have a chance because they could win in versatile ways, and they also have a
yeah.
good coach and a good quarterback. So, yeah, we're not seeing the offense do it on a weekly basis, but again, what happened against Buffalo is kind of like, yeah, I shouldn't be surprised. So that factor is always going to linger in people's mind. By the way, I don't like this that a player said this, but Amon-Ra St. Brown said on his podcast he does not want
Yeah.
to face the Rams. Why would you say that as for a future opponent? Kind of saying, "Oh, I'm afraid of this team." I don't like that, but it says a whole lot about what he's thinking about the Rams there.
Yeah, because as we talked about it on the pregame show, and Fernando and I went, well, what's the worst matchup that and I said there's a possibility, and it goes to uh I think somebody here, AMS said if the Rams get the thirsty, I think the Lions and the Eagles are not looking invincible right now. And part of it is because we don't know how long Jalen Hurts is gonna be out, so but he should be good
Yeah,
to go in the playoffs. So I still would not want to see the Eagles in the playoffs if they're at full strength. The Lions are a different discussion, and if you get them at home, like that, you faced them twice now in the last two seasons, and you've kept it close. So I really like what I would like that matchup if I'm the Rams, especially at SoFi. Now, as you said, I don't understand why he said that. You shouldn't be saying that,
that's
and
weird.
that's part of the thing about players having a podcast. Like I get it. Every player needs to have a podcast now, but sometimes you can give it just makes you look bad there, and you don't want to see that, especially if you're a fan base like the Lions. But that's for them to kind of think about that. I wanted to get to some of these comments real quick. ESG says, I think we might be seeing Jimmy G against the Seahawks. I think that's starting to look like, but
Yeah, and we
like I
were all
said,
hyping up the Week 18 matchup.
you do need to make sure that you wrap up the if that's the case, you need to make sure you wrap up the either the third or the fourth seed depending on the matchup. So it'll be interesting to see what Sean McVay does, but I think if they wrap up the division against the Cardinals, knowing Sean McVay, he's not going to care about seeding, and he's just going to rest
He's
his
gonna stick
guys in
them.
week 18.
100%. If they
Yeah,
wrap it up next week, he's not gonna even think twice about it. They're all
yeah.
gonna sit there. Now imagine getting an extra week of rest, like you're a number 1 seed, and then getting a home game after that. That's big in the wild card.
Yeah, 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 you're right. I mean, that's why I think it's important for them to wrap up the division next week against
Mhm.
the Cardinals. That's the biggest game of the season. My Armentis is Ram are the best in the West. They are right now, that's for sure. Suave Norteño says one win from the NFC West. Let's go Rams. Awesome show, guys. Keep it up. Thank you, Suave Norteño. We appreciate that. Yeah, Kyren was our my Armentis is Kyren was feisty today. He got a personal foul there. He
Oh,
threw the ball at one of the players because they were talking trash. So yeah, and then the worm and I great question here or from the worm says how much of a factor though was the weather in the last two games of for our offense. I like how the Rams look against the Bills, and I think this is the biggest thing, Gilbert, that we have to take into consideration, not for the offense. For me, is the fact that you're going into bad weather games and you're winning games, and that's the thing. Is that yes, you're gonna face somebody at home in the first round if you win the division, but then after that, you might have to go to the Eagles. You might have to go to the Packers, depending on what happens. If the Vikings beat the Lions in the final game, if they're able to win their last two games, there's also that. So it's good for that a West Coast team can go to a rainy, Santa Clara, and then turn around and go to a frigid New York and get wins.
yeah, that's why I've been wanting to praise this defense because yeah, maybe your offense won't pick up on the road and being outdoors and bad weather conditions. You need a defense to step up, and I'll say this: probably the worst matchup for the Rams is the Philadelphia Eagles, especially if you have to go because they came to SoFi and they got a beat down. Now going to Philly against a rowdy crowd could be a problem, and I get the whole Jalen Hurts could be a factor. Hopefully, it's okay. You want to see best on best, but they're gonna watch that Jaden Daniels video today, and Jaden Daniels picked apart Vic Fangio's defense. It wasn't
Hmm.
bombs away, but who's good at kind of picking zones and picking spots, and also having short plays around the line of scrimmage that have Puka Nakua kind of beat the zone or beat that too high shell. Matthew Stafford and Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup and Kyren Williams and Sean McVay, they will watch that tape for sure if they have to face
Yeah.
Philadelphia, because I thought Jaden Daniels was a stand-up performance today. Yeah, he got in trouble a couple times with 2 interceptions, but watch that game closely and see the accuracy and the way he was picking them apart. To put a pressure on that secondary, I think Mayer is a blueprint out there now for Philadelphia, which I'm gonna say a lot for Compas, but that was very
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, that was impressive, especially when they turned the ball over 5 times and you're still able to beat a good team like that.
Yeah,
I thought that was really impressive, and it's also a divisional game, so they know each other really well. But yeah, I had a feeling that they might be able to win that game. It was hard for me to, especially after what we saw in New Orleans last week. But then that also kind of goes to what we've been talking about. We talked about on Tuesday about the coach there with New Orleans and how the interim coach might be someone to keep in mind for them to
yeah.
keep because of how well he's done there. So yeah,
These are all
I'm
small
with
little
you that
things in each game
yeah.
that definitely make a difference. So I'm excited for these playoffs.
Yeah, Johnny G kept it PG today, so we're gonna share his comment here. Rams need to keep this black Air Force One energy going.
Yeah.
So that's a good one.
Get the
Yeah,
win in any way. I like it. That's
yep,
Black Air Force right there.
yep. ESG says I think the Rams are better off in the 4 seed Lions or Vikings. Neither look unbeatable. I mean, you beat the
Yeah.
Vikings and you played the Lions close, so
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I don't know. I think the Packers are definitely a distant third in the division. I know the Packers beat the Rams, but that was early in the season. What was it, like week 4 or 5?
yeah.
I think for the
That was
Rams'
before
sake,
they went on their run.
yeah, for the Rams' sake, it would be the Packers. But I'm telling you, that home field advantage in the first round is going to make a big difference, regardless of who you play for that 5th or 6th or whatever seed it is. Uh, these teams are good in the NFC North, but having to go to LA, and if they're well rested too, that could be a problem.
Yes. Yeah, see, so that's the other thing that we'll talk about because if you think about it, if the Vikings continue to win and then that sets up the division for
Mm,
the Lions and the Vikings on Sunday Night Football,
I want to see
then
that.
the loser has to turn around and travel to Los Angeles, and so that'll be huge if
That's
that's
a
the
lot,
case.
yeah.
Yeah,
Having to wait all day on week 18 for Sunday night, I'm gonna make the song. Having to wait all day and then having to
yeah,
travel. That's what happened to the Vikings on a short notice. Remember on Thursday
yeah,
night?
yeah. Yeah, and that's what happens. So they're gonna one of those teams will have to do that again. So yeah, so you're rooting for the Rams to win the division on Saturday, then rest everybody in week 18, and then hope that the Vikings continue to win. So that way it sets up that uh that that Sunday night game. So yeah, that's huge for the Rams, and then you get the 4th seed, and it sets up everything. AMS says is Kyren Williams going to run out of gas before the playoffs? I think we're going to see Blake Corum a lot more in the next 2 games, is my prediction, especially if they clinch the division next week.
Yeah, I could see that. Maybe use him more in the goal line situation for the touchdown. He has a bunch of touchdowns this year. So, and hey, you never know if you get Blake Corum more run here, especially in week 18, if they do wrap it up, I could go a long way to making you a little more dangerous with the running game in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then the Worm says running game has been our foundation the last 2 games. Pass coverage needs to improve quickly. They the offense has not been committing a lot of penalties, Gilbert, and today they made like 3, and Bo Limmer got called for like 3 of them. They need to clean that up. That was not a good look for the offense, especially with how good they've been at avoiding penalties. We'll wrap this up quickly here, Gilbert. The Eagles will probably either face the Commanders or the Packers. Either team could give them trouble. So that'll be something to keep
Yeah.
in
Do
mind.
you know what the Packers record is? I forgot, Victor. Is it 10-4 right now? Because they play on
They've
Monday.
only lost 3 times.
Is
I
it
can tell
so?
you
Are
that.
they 11-3? Then let me look real quick
Yeah,
because
they've only lost. Go ahead and check, but they've only lost 3 times. They lost to the Vikings, the Lions, and the Eagles.
yeah, but they lost to the Lions twice, so they're 10-4. I just
They're
looked right now.
10-4. Okay.
They're 10 and
Thank you for
4.
checking it.
So and the Commanders are 2-5. Commanders have to play the Falcons next week, and I think a crappy team in Week 18. So they
Yeah, they got
pass
the
them.
Giants and the Cowboys left. The Commanders do.
I know they play the Falcons next week, but
Oh,
let me
the
double check,
Falcons.
which is kind of a sneaky game. But let me
Yeah.
see. Yeah, Falcons and the Cowboys. So if the Packers, I don't think they're gonna lose on Monday to New Orleans, but if they lose to the Vikings next week, maybe the Commanders pass them as a 6 seed.
Yeah, there you go. So maybe you get the Commanders at home. I had not looked at that one, but that could be it. But that also depends on who ends up as, because you have the fourth and the fifth seed, right? And then the 3 seed would play the 6 seed. So that's the
Yeah,
thing too.
yeah,
And if
and
the
then
Bucks continue to win, then they're gonna keep the 3 seed.
which they're playing right now, which we've gotten to that point where scoreboard watching for
Yeah.
the third and the fourth seed. But yeah, and then they play the Panthers. I think well they play the Panthers and the Saints here, but currently Tampa Bay is the number 4 seed, so that's because of the half game division. I mean,
Right,
half game.
because the Rams won, but yeah, so that's why. But
Yeah.
in terms of I think when it comes to the tiebreakers, the Bucks have the
Mm.
tiebreaker right now.
So you need a loss either with the Cowboys tonight or that's maybe
Or-
Carolina next week and the Saints.
Yeah,
So it's not
yeah,
it's a winnable schedule, but maybe they lose one.
yeah, and that's the thing. Then you gotta figure out, do you want the 3 seed or you want the 4 seed? So that's the other thing. So that's gonna be huge
Yeah.
for the Rams.
I
That's what
think
I'm
the
saying. Like,
3
well,
has to be. Like if you get
uh,
Commanders or Green Bay, I feel better for the Rams for 3 or
yeah.
6.
Yeah, but if you're the 4th seed, then you're stuck with the whoever ends up
Yeah.
as the
Yeah,
loser of
and they
the
might be tired. Yeah. Hey,
yeah,
good spot. Yeah.
yeah.
Look at
So
that.
you're in
Who
a
would
good
have
spot
thought?
either way if you're
A
the
month
Rams.
ago, we're like, you got to win now. You got to get Seattle on week
Yeah,
18, or like
yeah,
you're 1-4. They can't do all this, and here we are.
yeah. And good point by ESG. It says the Rams will be home for the next 3 weeks. So, yeah, that's also huge as well. So, and the Worm says, I hope they don't have to play at Lambeau. No, they won't unless each team advances. And then it goes to the best record, right? Or does it go if you win the division? That's the thing I always forget. Is it by division? Like if you won your division and you play a wild card team, do you? Yeah, right. Because that happened with no, was that the Rams and the 49ers? Yeah. The Rams
Uh,
won the yeah,
it rarely happens, but I don't know if that's the thing. I forget. Maybe they did
yeah.
keep the rule. I know there was talks about it, but I'll look into that. But it would be tough for Green Bay to win division anyways because they're both teams won today, Minnesota and Detroit. Even if they win Monday night against the Saints, they're still 2 games
Yeah, the
behind
higher
with 2
seed
games to
gets the
go.
home game. So
There you
yeah.
go. But I just don't see Green Bay winning this division.
So they won't need to, yeah, the only way would be if they win the division. So I think at this point you're kind of rooting for the Vikings to win the division. If I'm being completely honest, you're rooting for if you're a Rams fan, you're rooting for the Vikings to win the division. Because that means you get the Lions on the at SoFi
Yeah.
or the Packers.
And
So
then
either
you
one.
haven't played the Lions, in at SoFi. The playoff game and the week 1 game was in Detroit, and then Amon
Yeah.
Ross and Brown scared about the Rams. So yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so there's also that, and then we have Henry Camacho says, "Very greedy win, 20 degrees on the road. There are games you need to win." Yep, and I agree with that. The Lions are banged up on defense. So
Yeah, and
ESG,
they
you're
played the
right,
Bears
and
today, so don't act like they're
yeah,
back and fully healthy. It was the Bears.
and then we got 2 more here that I want to get to. Delbert Salgado says, whichever team comes in for the playoffs, please don't sell your tickets to them.
Yeah,
So
especially
yes,
those Coast City teams, that'll be tough.
yeah. Yeah, we've seen that they travel well. All those cities. You're talking about the maybe not the Vikings, but the Packers, the Lions. They're all going to travel well. So yeah, you don't want to sell your tickets for those games, and you want to go and support your team. And then a new name here, CMDR Cardney says horns up. So good to
Okay.
have you guys here in the comments. And then Willie Bowen says Tyler Higbee was great. That was awesome. I thought that was one of the best things about this game too. Not only the win, but just seeing the receptions. You can tell that he's a huge leader in that team with how everybody mobbed him after he scored the touchdown. It's awesome for him to get that touchdown. If they really miss, he's going to be a big key going forward, as we talked about. I think he's someone that could fix a lot of the problems that they've had on offense, Gilbert.
Yeah, and the healthier he gets, the more I guess the more rhythm, the more he gets used to the game. 'Cause that's a tough injury to come back from. But to start off that well with a touchdown, then you look for the other things, the blocking, helping out the line of scrimmage, just knowing the motions, knowing the pre-snap assignments. So that's big. That's why he's been their tight end for the last few years here. Loved Higgsby's touchdown. I was happy for him. Dano is mentioning with a strong arm emoji and a sunglasses emoji. Yeah, so as the weeks go by, he should be doing better. And I'll say this, and we can wrap it up here as a little
Yes.
kind of preview for Arizona week. The Cardinals are not good. Kyler Murray is not a good quarterback, and the defense has been doing okay, but today they really got exposed by the Panthers here. Bryce Young had a good game on them, but something's not clicking with
And
Arizona,
Connor left the game with a knee injury, so they
and that's
might not
another
have
thing.
Connor for that game.
And I was gonna say it's pretty much James Conner and then little dump offs with Trey McBride. Not even Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting involved. Kyler Murray can't throw deep. He's forcing ball. He's in his head now, and the defense is starting to falter. So you better hope for a good game. It'll be a good time to have a beatdown and cruise. You could do it against Arizona.
And especially to repay them for the
Oh yeah,
beatdown that they gave you in week 2. Like, this is a game where you hit on all cylinders. You have your offense, your defense, and your special teams. Kind of like what we saw against the Bills on offense and special teams, and then what we've seen the last 2 weeks from this defense. If you we w- it's time to see all three faces kind of click together at home, especially kind of get retribution for what they did to you in week 2. So that'll be especially, and then clinching it, that'll be even more special for them.
yeah. And to go off of Willie, hey, the worm. Thank you, appreciate the worm. Shout out to you.
Awesome. Thank
Uh,
you. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, he says, "Cheers from chilly Milwaukee. Get yourself a 6 pack of PBR and Tall Boys." Hey, why
Sure.
not? I
Yeah.
like that there. Shout out to you, the worm. You've always been nice to us, so really appreciate that, and especially because we're planning a Super Bowl radio road trip to New Orleans next. I guess in early February. This money goes to that for traveling expenses, so we really appreciate that. So, yeah, if you want to follow the worm's lead, that'd be awesome too. We're trying to get to
Yeah.
New Orleans for Super Bowl radio road, so we appreciate that, and also have it in the back of your minds for the next week. Maybe it's a lengthy playoff run. We don't know. So just
Yeah.
keep that. But again, no pressure. We know that this time of year is difficult because everybody wants a gift and it's the holidays and things like that. But to Willie Bowen's comment here, yes, the Cardinals are out of the playoffs. So that could be either good or bad. The pressure's off. Maybe they're playing freely and they go YOLO style, or they're like, this season's over. Let's go to Cancun. By the way, Jadavion Clowney said they're going home. They're going home with us too in 2 weeks. So talking trash for the Cardinals who are not going to the
Yeah.
playoffs. So it could go either really good or really bad here. We'll see how they play.
Yeah, that was like one of the one bets I got right this week. Was I knew that the Panthers were going to have a better game in this against the Cardinals. But yeah, I'm with you now. Now we start looking at playoff scenarios, and then but first you got to take care of business on Saturday night. They changed the. We now know that the Rams are playing on Saturday night. We will be back on Thursday. We're changing schedule because of Christmas. We'll do the preview episode for Rams Cardinals on Thursday. We'll let you guys know. Check the. I think it should be at 6:30. It depends. We also have. No, it'll be before Monday night football, before Thursday night football. Now that I
Yeah.
remember,
Yeah, like
so
around 4:30
yes,
before Thursday night football, which will be Seattle and Chicago Bears. I guess people don't really care about Seattle right now because they lost. But hey, you never know. Maybe if they lose on Thursday, then you're really looking nice for Saturday. But it's the Bears, so they'll probably give you something to sweat about. But yeah, we'll break down the game on Thursday, and then Monday join us for Compas on the Beat. We're going to combine it with the Lunes Live and Four Compas on Tuesday because we got Noche Buena on Tuesday and then Merry Christmas on Wednesday with a couple games there too.
yeah. So we'll for Thursday we'll have the preview between the Rams and the Cardinals, and then we'll have Gilberto's hour after the game on Thursday night
Yeah,
football.
if that
And
game is really ugly, Victor, I'm down to do it like in the fourth quarter. I don't want to wait
okay,
for
I'm
that
down
game.
for that too.
So
Yeah,
8
I'm sure
p.m.
it's not.
maybe for
Yeah, there
Gilberto's
you go.
hour.
So make sure you stay locked in, and we'll have everything for you guys to preview. And then, of course, we'll be back on Saturday night for the post game show. Hopefully, that is the Rams clinching the division, and we can start looking at have a better look at what the playoff scenarios are looking like for the Rams. So we'll talk to you guys on Thursday afternoon, I guess at this point.
Yeah, so see you guys on Thursday for House of Horns. Hopefully, I see some of you on Monday for Compas on the Beat. If I
Hmm.
don't, happy holidays and enjoy the time with loved ones. And yeah, we'll break down this matchup as we get into this playoff season, which is looking pretty nice. You don't want to jinx anything, but it's looking good for the Rams here. Who would have thought right now?
Yeah.
But yeah, let's get going. And again, we appreciate all the comments and support. The Worm, shout out to you. Do us a
Yeah.
favor, like, comment, subscribe, be a compa, tell a compa about Compas on the Beat. So yeah, it's a channel of 4 people here. We're putting all the legwork and all the effort and energy here. And I appreciate everybody being flexible with my schedule. Like Victor has the last season or the last 3 seasons, I guess, or and
Yeah.
everybody waiting here in the comments because it turned out to be a great Sunday for the LA Rams. 49ers lose, Seahawks lose, Cardinals lose, the Rams won. So let's get going. On that note, ya nos vamos, pues, vámonos.